Hello and good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, happy middle of the week, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, Justin and John. How is everyone this morning, or afternoon, or evening, or middle of the night, for some of you? Everybody's like, here, we're here. I can see it's that kind of Wednesday. It's that kind of Wednesday. That's all right. I'm okay with that kind of Wednesday. I need to get that hilt painted in. I may do contrast color today. May do spot. May do purple. The day is early. Yes, this is true. This is true. I prefer to keep a positive attitude and believe the day will continue to go uphill in a positive direction from the morning. All I know is I don't have to cook tonight, so I'm like, woohoo! I'll just block in this sword hilt real quick, and then I think we're going to actually do purple. The reason I would do purple as an accent color is to emphasize the yellow on this piece. Do I want to do Icy Violet or Runic? I think both. But first, let's block in this sword because it annoys me. Anything that annoys Anne must be rectified quickly, and then we move on. And I need to decide also, this is all very similar, but I think I can get away with some gold trim there. I do want to use some silver probably on these small buckles. I find that tiny buckles are, they look a little bit better in silver in my opinion. They pop a little bit more anyway, because you can use white and light gray. Oh, I was on time. I started the stream on time. On my end. Just for the record. Now, I probably would have been a few minutes late because usually there's stuff happening in the morning that I must schedule around myself. But yeah. You guys shouldn't complain because honestly, I usually go overtime and I cut off at like quarter after, so you get more than a half an hour anyway. No, the sword is absolutely not going to be purple. I do not believe in using accent colors on metal. I have somewhat decided on a different compromise for that. Different placement of purple. I do not like putting weird colors on weaponry unless it has a reason. Like my halfling having those vicious green daggers of hers because I wanted to suggest poison. So unless there is a specific like story-driven need for it, I dislike putting accents in unnatural places. Now, if you were painting this, you could absolutely do those runes in purple. Or do the sword itself in purple if you really wanted to. It's just not my shtick. But it would be a correct choice as far as color composition goes. And for you, it might be a correct choice with purple. You know, as far as just as far as, like, you might not mind having a purple sword. I would. I don't mind introducing a little bit of purple into the NMM, specifically into the shadows, to give the sword just a hint of purple, but the sword will not be purple, if you know what I mean. There we go. Mostly I just want to block in more colors now. We're very close to the point where everything will be blocked in more or less. Now I did go incorrect there because that hilt is definitely a hilt because her pommel is back here. So this probably needs to be purple. This portion of her wrap, the handle. So that will be an accent color for sure because it shows quite well on the back, even if it's just kind of buried a little bit on the front. I think I'm going to pop. I don't want every metal accent to be gold, but I do want some in here. So I'm putting it pretty much where it's, mostly where it's not up against her skin. I have no choice here on the hand. But as you can see, I'll be taking it, you know, more yellow than her hand is. So hopefully we'll get enough contrast there. Also, it, you know, there's really not much I can do about it. I don't want to make the hilt silver. I dislike, going completely monochrome with the swords. I like having that warm accent. So then it's up to me to introduce tones to the gold that separates it from the skin. Visually. MSP started way long time ago, Anvil. Let's see. I came on in 2003. I believe we had prototypes at least by 2004. The first ReaperCon was 2004. And I think maybe it was the second ReaperCon we had samples for. Yeah, maybe it was the second ReaperCon. So I want to say 2005 is when stuff started to move. The line itself, I think, was released in 2005. I think it was released 2 years after I started with the company, and because it took some time to R&D. I think we gave out samples for that ReaperCon, and the line did release that year, I think. Ed would know better. So it's about 16 years old at this point. There we go. Black Sword was Elric. Yeah. Yeah, both. I think the Black Sword had an Elric. I think Shadow Raven has a right. Yeah, but there was a story behind that. Like, unless I have a story behind a purple sword, then, you know, it's a character thing. That's what I was just saying. It's like my green daggers on my halfling. I did those because I definitely had in mind that she was an assassin type who would use poison. She was not a nice person, so I wanted to suggest that very specifically about her character by giving her poisonous blades. And most people recognize the green as going to be either, you know, like Demon Fire, thanks to WoW, or poison. Either way, it's not a good color for magic weapons if you're a nice person. So, yes. I mean, you could also technically have glowing green weapons if you're like a forest guardian, I suppose. But they usually aren't quite as... I don't know that I usually see that, though. Mostly because the green is so... seems to be so lodged in fantasy tropes as poisonous. Anvil, there's no way to close the barn door after the horse. You can keep your paint good over 16 years by shaking it every year and adding a little bit of water. But if the paint has already gone gritty, or then you really, like, if it's kind of gritty and chunky, then it's fallen out of solution. If you've been using it like regularly, then it may be that 16 years or 15 years is the lifespan of MSP. Inevitably, the paint will inevitably go if you don't, like I said, shaking it regularly, and like every year to 2 years. And then like every 2 to 3 years, put a few drops of water in it because it'll thicken up. But if you have paint that's just been sitting for a decade, no paint on earth is going to really take to that very well. I can't have coffee, Crowley. You're going to have coffee for me. Once you get that grittiness, which usually goes together with a little bit of chunky thickeniness, that means your paint has fallen out of solution. And that happens very slowly in MSP, but, you know, 15 years will do it. However, I want to say also, if you're using like paint pots paint, like if you used old pro paint, for example, where it was in a pot, it's gone gritty for an entirely different reason. And that is that every time you open the pot, a little bit of dried grit flakes off. So then that'll happen over the course of just a couple of years. So that's why paint pots are, you know, usually not ideal. One of the reasons. Well, the other thing, Anvil, is honestly, like, if your paint lasted like 15 years, you should be pretty happy. that's $3 or actually less, $2.50 that you spent, you know, 14 or 15 years ago, or even 12 years ago. You know, let's say you didn't get it right at the start of MSP, and your paint was good all this time. You know. So I would say that, you know, okay, so you might need to reacquire some colors. You might just want to pare down your collection and figure out what colors you use most often, and then just, you know, add a few colors or replace a few colors that you've always thought are interesting and make a point of using them. I'm going to add some gold hardware on the staff here. Or at least I'm going to add the base coat of the gold hardware. This is me blocking in the rest of our areas that we have yet to paint. Also, the one thing I don't like, and I may take it off, but the one thing I don't like about the hobby handle is just that it makes me go off screen because it's too big. It's too big to be on screen with. So actually, let me grab a block. This is too big of a block for her, but hopefully it'll help a little bit. There. That'll work for now. But yeah, and because it's heavy, I can't hang it off the end of the bench here. When I paint, I want to keep my back somewhat straight, so I don't slouch very much, which means I paint very close to the edge of my table. And that means that if the handle is too long, I'm going to kind of be pushing it up like that. I don't want that. So, sorry, hobby handle. You have failed the stream test. You are otherwise good, but you are too big for Anne's painting thing. Now, if I was willing to just hunch over and extend further, great, but... If you had an original silver MSP that was also a completely different base, and it wasn't as good as, in my opinion, the base we have now. Like, there were a couple of early MSPs that did actually, like, have issues that we then switched out bases on. And yeah, if you use it a lot, you're going to generally have it be fine. Yeah, stuff does change. I mean, when you develop a new paint line, Ed warned me about this when we started MSP. He's like, you know, just be ready for some formulas to not work, for some, you know, chemical stuff to happen, for things to go bad unexpectedly, and then we have to reformulate. You know, he warned me that this is the way of paint lines. And most companies don't want to deal with those growing pains, which is why most companies just outsource their paint line development. That, and they don't want to spend the money to get in to where they can develop their own paint line. And they probably don't have a person who's qualified to develop their own paint line, or nor do they want to train somebody. People like me and Sadie are not common. Like, you need the right person to really do this sort of thing. Everybody having a rough work day? I'm sorry, everybody. My work day has only just started, and I'm excited to be working on my next PDF for the Patreon. So I had started it the other day and gotten distracted by it. I've also been thinking about Pentad stuff. So you $10 backers might get a PDF this time. Maybe I'll do a short video to go with it, because I think my thingy says that it's specifically a video. But think I'll do Pentad stuff this month. And for those who wonder about what the Pentad thing is, if you are a patron at the $10 level on my Patreon, you can find out. I think I did it for $10. Did I do it for $2? Can't remember. No, maybe I did it for the $2. I'm not sure. I don't remember what I do. Anyway, Pentads, yeah. So yeah, my Patreon is patreon.com/paintingbig. It is a different way of painting. Obviously, triads are 3 paints, pentads are 5. There are advantages of going with the pentad system. And people asked me to put out some content about pentads that they could use. So, I will be doing that. But first, I have to finish my $5 PDF. So yeah, it's an okay day so far. It's an okay day. Oh, I'm sorry, Kariniko. Sorry you're having a lousy day. Go out and spend time with your plants. When I spend time with my plants, it feels better. Even though my plants are just in big jars on my windowsill and big pots in my other room. I have an orchid that hit its second bloom and now it's like blooms are dying off faster than expected, so I'm worried about it. And 2 orchids that are stubbornly so far not blossoming again. We shall see. David knows the deal. Like, if at any time I have no orchids in bloom, then I get to buy a new orchid, so... Oh, it's raining. Oh. Sorry. I would gladly come and take a walk in the rain. I miss rain. I guess that no matter where you live, like, there's always something you, like, miss, right, about it. Like, I miss the glorious sunsets in Texas. And I miss the heat. Like, I hate to say that. Like, don't let David hear me say this. But I miss Texas heat. Because I really like hot weather. I can't wait till it gets up in the 80s here consistently. It went back down the last couple days to where it's like 68. And I'm like, no, give me summer. Maybe I'll adapt eventually, but I don't know. I've always liked heat better than cold. No, Shadow Raven, she's been spoiled lately. It didn't rain for like 3 whole days and everybody was super happy, apparently. That's what she said yesterday or the day before. So, that's the problem. All right, now do I really want to go? Yeah, I think I do want to go gold up here. She has a collar on too. I need to paint that dark leather. I think it's like a collar or a buckle. Man, I need to like consult the Lysette concept art because it definitely looks like it's a buckle, but then it's got bangles hanging down. It's like really difficult. Seriously, Izzy, what is that? Yeah, if I went into Sacramento, I could get hotter. You know, drove up north and slightly east. I understand that, but it's a work day, so I can't go and take a road trip. I mean, okay, I'm self-employed. I could, but I'm not going to because I need to be productive. And wasting an hour and a half on the road is not very productive each way. Although I do want to... I have a field trip in mind coming up because those of you who know I'm into canine genetics is we work with UC Davis, which is not far from here, with our canine diversity project in our breed. And I've always wanted to go up and take a tour of their canine genetics department because they do actually give tours. So our state is opening up on the 14th. So I should contact them and make an arrangement. And it'll be warmer up there too, because that's close to Sacramento. So yeah, total geek field trip, but... Yeah, exactly. It's a leather choker with a buckle over the top of a necklace with dangles. Yeah, that's what I figured, Valandar. I mean, Bobby sculpted it. It's true to what it looked like. It was just, like, crazy. Yeah, it was summer last week and spring again this week. Yep. Agreed. Come on, world. Give us our warm weather. I want summer. It was warm in the sun. I'll give it that. All right, so let's get a purple going. I'm going to grab 2 purples. 2 favorites that you guys are used to seeing. Icy Violet and Runic Purple. Now, if we go, we're going to have a totally different look if we go with more of a blue purple than if we go with a red purple. And what happens, if you guys watch, I want you to watch closely now, okay? Maybe your eye will see this. So here's the Runic Purple. And look at Lysette next to it. Kind of look at the whole thing. Keep the whole thing in your eye frame, okay? So there. And there. Can you see how it looks different? Like one color looks different next to the other. Like makes the whole model look different. If you look at the whole thing. Try it again. There's that. Because I can see it very clearly. And then there's that. What happens, now I'll tell you what you're looking for, and I want you to watch again. Okay? Oh, no. But if I knock my camera over, it's not going to happen. 1 second. That was a slight jog. All right, so what happens is, if you pay attention, when I switch to Runic Purple, everything will look more green, including the yellow. But right now, the yellow looks more yellow, less greenish. Yes, exactly. Right. Nah, Valandar nailed it. Valandar, ding, 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 gold star. Or actually any colored star. Like I have a whole bunch. So, you know, you could have any color star you want. You even could have a black star or a red star. You too could be Mars. So colors always change depending on what's next to them. And since this is such a monochromatic figure, I'm able to show you guys in person how that works. Because, yeah, if you put this red in there, then it really picks up that green. Remember how I talk about how complementary colors intensify the presence of their complement. So, like, if you put, like, a red next to a green, it will make the green more intense. And this is a very reddish purple. So notice now that it works even when you're working with not a red, but a purple, but it's a reddish purple. It still picks up that green. I figured red, that's why I brought it in. But this is more of a blue purple, and we don't have any orange on the model really. We've only got like golden brown skin tones. Like at most it's going to maybe take her skin up a bit. I'll have to look at that and see. But since we don't have any orange, it's just the purple interacting. And so the purple picks up the yellow. So do you see how that works? So once again, introduce a reddish purple, everything looks greener. Introduce a bluish purple, and the yellow looks more yellow, and the green is de-emphasized. So when you are deciding accent colors, then you're just going to get confused. It's just going to be a mishmash at that point, but it's probably going to make the green greener. If you use both, the problem is you're introducing that red, so you're going to get the green shift. The only way you avoid the green shift is to take red out of the picture. So keep that in mind, that it is not always just using the complement, but if you use a color with the complement in it. Val, this is like super simple color theory. If you can't handle this, I'm worried about you. Like, this is like yellow and purple, red and green. It's like super easy. All you have to do is like, and if you honestly can't see that Runic Purple is more red than Icy Violet, then I'm also worried about you. Like, this is the most elementary, like step of color theory. Like, any like, Anybody should be able to see that unless they're colorblind. If they have colorblindness, then you've got a legit reason to be afraid. And that's likely because it's more contrast. So think about this. Like, there's a lot of green in this model. Everything on this model, you know, the dress is green on both. Technically, the yellow has green shadows, and the hair has green shadows. And so the more contrast, Kuroniko, can be gained with runic, and that's why you're attracted to it. But if we do that, then we have to acknowledge that we are going to have to work harder to make this yellow dress yellow, or it will just have to go chartreuse, because that's what it's going to do. So this is our decision point. This accent colors are more important than you thought, aren't they? This is our decision point on whether this dress is going to be chartreuse or it's going to be actually yellow. Because when you're working with these kind of, it's the same thing if we had gone with a warm. If we'd gone with a warm yellow, we'd have to choose whether the dress was orange or yellow at this same point. And depending on our accent. Like, it would have been the same story. Yeah, you're not so much staring right at the yellow itself, but you are looking at the whole thing together. But ideally, you see less green. You see it as less green. But yeah. And partially the dark and light is just going to be the shift from my camera. So don't, But yeah, it is also intensifying the screen. So, like, if you're seeing this green jump out at you a little bit more here, down here, Val, then yeah, it's entirely because of the red. You don't stare right at the yellow, though. You have to look at the whole model, Shadow Raven. So that's like, look at the whole model here. And the appearance. It doesn't change. Like, if you like sampled it on Photoshop, you'd see the color did not change. It's just how your eyes kind of see it. The icy violet will de-emphasize the green. Like, the green's still there. Absolutely it is. But it doesn't, like, spring out to you as strongly. And then you do this, and then you can really see the green. Really, really see the green really strongly. And if you're not seeing, like, a difference when you look at these colors, then you may have a small amount of color blindness, or you may just see colors a little bit different. And it's, you know, or it could be your monitor. It could be any of those things, right? So, but this is, for most people, this is a great exercise in how complementary colors make the complement jump out. Even if it's only not really the complement, but close. Even if it's purple, but it has a reddish tint to it, it will still interact with green as if it were red. So, and yes, there is a much higher contrast with the runic. But remember, this is kind of, this is why, and this actually is a great example of why I don't tend to like analogous color schemes. So what you said, Kuroniko, about liking this one better, and me explaining, is because it's higher contrast. Because, you know, opposite on the color wheel is the highest chroma contrast you can get. But you know, when you're in an analogous color scheme where everything is more grouped close together, it's just not as visually exciting. So this is why I'm not a big fan of analogous color schemes. We're definitely doing an analogous color scheme here. We're all like yellow and green so far, right? And this is where we diverge. So if we want the maximum, like, color punch, we go with runic. And then we lose our analogous color scheme entirely because we went opposite it on the color wheel. Complete boom. I mean, the direct complement of yellow-green is red-purple. So this is the exact complementary color to this dress. But it is definitely going to make it look like a yellow-green and not a yellow, because it's going to pick up the green in it more than this does. This, we'd still have a chance to make our dress look like truly yellow, especially if we glazed with a slightly warmer yellow one more time. But so does that make sense to peeps? Paul John's life has totally missed this awesome lecture on color theory. That's what you get for coming in late. And I'm not repeating it. Because the people would get bored if I did. So, all right. Hey, Reaper, are you there? And can you put up a poll? If John or Justin or I don't know if you can do it, Quindy. Are you a mod? Can you do a poll? I missed the TED Talk, yeah. So now I want you guys in chat to vote on which one we do. Do we stick with our more analogous color scheme and use Icy Violet? Or do we go absolutely complementary and go with our runic purple? And so if you have a moment, Quindy, I know you're working, but I would like to put up a poll. Accent color on Lysette. Should we go with 9425 Icy Violet, or should we go with 9424 Runic Purple? And I'll put them right next to each other here. Those are our two accent colors. We could also, or we could have also, but I'm not really thinking of going there. Another color that would be a decent accent, although not great, as you can see it doesn't look quite as good, is the Runic Glow. It doesn't look quite as good as the Runic Purple, though. Now, we could highlight our Runic Purple with this if we wanted. I don't think it... I mean, yeah, I guess you could call it mood. But I don't... and this is warmer. This is colder. So I could see how that would be a thing. I think it's less about that and less about, like, what you're trying to emphasize, what color you're trying to emphasize on this. But that's me, and I'm looking at it purely from an exercise point of view rather than from a mood. You did it. All right, which purple, guys? Good job, Quindy. Okay, go vote. No, that's exactly old one. That's exactly. So harsh is also contrast, right? It's like more difference, right? Harsh equals more difference. And that's exactly what you get because this is a complementary color to the yellow and the green here. And this is not. So this is going to make it look softer and more integrated because it's not as complementary. It's not a complement of the green or the yellow green. It is slightly complementary to the yellow of the highlight on the dress. And I did want the dress to look yellow. But yes, then you put this in and it's more of a harsh contrast. So yeah, you are exactly on the nose, the old one. Good one. Gold star or any colored star. Any colored star. Any colored star. I do believe in star stickers. Like, absolutely. So vote, vote, vote. If you make it a tie, make it a tie, and then Anne gets to like. Icy is taking a commanding lead, huh? Hey, no problem. If I can help you guys with color choices, because I'll tell you, that's what people always say, is color choices. Like, I actually should take a picture. Actually, I'm going to. While you guys vote, I'm going to take a picture of Lysette as she stands. And I'm going to take a picture of her with the with each bottle next to her, because I really could use this in a color theory handout. So I'm going to do that real quick. So hold on for a moment. The camera is going to swing because I need to, it is going to swing to the palette because I need some light on this subject. And then I can, take my pictures. Grab, get out of frame, Anne. All right, Icy Violet in frame with the model. There. And then Runic Purple in frame with the model while you all vote. Oh, I got a little bit too far. There we go. There. Hopefully the camera captured that, because this is really a great example to use for this. So, since I did it, I may as well record it for posterity. Brushes at 10 paces. Icy Violet. 63% of you. Awesome. All right. That's fantastic. So that makes it easier to keep our yellow dress. I'm going to put Runic far away. You are correct, though, that normally I would go with Runic. Like, if I was doing my usual Anne, because I love complementary colors. I like maximum contrast. But kind of our process here is to make her... I just stuck my finger in paint because I'm so talented that way. is to make her kind of an analogous scheme. So let's rock this and see what we can do. So this is very light, however, and she's very light. So I do need a dark shadow for it. I'm going to mix Icy Violet and Kraken Ink. Kraken Ink is a purple, but it's very dark, and it's not super reddish. So you'll use a size, ooh. Hey, y'all, I asked and you answered, so if those of you who didn't get your choice this time, maybe you'll get your choice next time I decide to ask for input. Pardon me, while I turn the model so that I can... One of the things I like about blocks is that you can just set them down and it keeps the model safe. Like, keeps her stable, facing the camera. I'm going to do just 1 drop of Kraken Ink, and then I'm going to put like 4 drops of Icy Violet in it and see what kind of color I get. Because we do have a lot of light colors on this model, so we'll see. I believe I've used this particular combo before, and it worked really well. So I'm going to just see what color that makes, and then you all can see if it makes a pretty color and make it yourself. All the opposite choices, muses? Yeah. Although if you tried to go runic purple with the orange yellow, you'd find that you're in exactly the situation as this, but opposite. You'd still be doing an analogous color scheme with a slight variant, but you wouldn't be going with a real complement. So if you mix Kraken Ink, it's very strong. So it really darkens down the Icy Violet, but it makes a beautiful shadow for it. And then we have Icy Violet itself. And then we'll have Icy Violet, 2 drops with 2 drops of pure white. You could also use Spectral. Or is it Spectral? No, it's, yeah, the white with purple. The off purple white. I think it's Spectral white. We'll make a lighter version of Icy Violet. And when I lighten this color, I'm always kind of like amused because it takes itself a little bit more reddish almost, which is so weird. Oh, cool, Evangelista. Good, good, good. Yeah, it's a great book. It's really cool. Color by Betty Edwards, you guys. Seriously. And if you do the exercises, you'll start to get even a better, like, it'll help you, doing the exercises helps you kind of internalize the stuff that she's laying out. So, like, you can read it, but you won't remember it, or really, it won't be in your gut until you do it enough, right? So doing her exercises and then also doing them maybe on a mini. Like, because you could adapt some of her exercises to just, like, especially the ones where you're putting one color next to another, you could adapt that and use it on a miniature. Absolutely. And do it that way. So we have mixed up a triad, guys. Look. We added 4 drops of Icy Violet, 1 drop of Kraken Ink. Just Icy Violet, and then Icy Violet 50-50 with white. Since it's already a very light color, I went 50-50 with white instead of with just 1 drop of white, because I knew that this when you've got a color that's light already, you have to really go heavy on the white to push it a step lighter. All right, and I think I'm going to start dark. So we are uh-oh, my sticky tack. Do not betray me, sticky tack. There, much better. So we are alternating on this model, and we could go light with these wraps, and it wouldn't be like a catastrophic thing. But I've got a lot of white, and light color overlapping here. So, we have dark and medium. The gold counts kind of as a medium color. And we could go light here, but we have light overlapping it, which is why I'm going to push it just a little darker with my base. Plus, this is just a pretty color. It's a very pretty color. But yeah, I almost always go with complementary, which is why I wanted to do this model a little bit different. Even though my guts don't like the off color choice. Technically, this is, I think, now a split complementary. It's something weird. It's not a straight complementary, though. So maybe it's tetrad or something. Where is my color wheel? Color wheel, now you've got me wondering. All right, so let's see here. We went with violet. I'm going to turn it over on the other side. Hold on. Let's figure this out because, you know, color wheel. Are we? Yeah, it could be a split complementary. Okay, so let's fly around here. Icy violet is actually on this color wheel. It's the light blue violet here. So, like, when you look at your color wheel, what you've got is this color plus white plus gray plus black. And if you hold up icy violet next to this, you'll see it's almost exactly a match. So icy violet sits here. So if we look down here at our split complementary, we're just a little bit off. So for split complementary to work, we would have had to go with, guess what? Red violet, right? Because look, red violet is at the top of the arrow, and then you've got this narrow triangle, and what does it intersect? Yellow and green. So if we had gone with the red violet, we would go with a straight up split complementary. And these triads and tetrads are what these are is they're just telling you what colors tend to look the best to us as humans. Like what colors like go together, quote, you know, to us as humans. So that's why a lot of you liked the red violet. And then, you know, some of you were just like, no, and you veered off course and wanted to go with the other one. So I do not think we can actually find a color scheme that's a standard color scheme that works with what we're trying to do. Because the tetrad would go red. Notice how all of these color schemes tend to go with complements. Like the straight up tetrad, which is a square, matches two complementaries. So what I tend to call that a dual complementary instead of a tetrad, because there are two different tetrads here. So you can see the square one in the background here, the darker square, is matching yellow and purple and red, orange, and blue, green. So it has one straight up complement and then a split complement. And then the narrower tetrad, these can be interesting to work on. It's also matching up yellow and purple, but then it's also matching up yellow and green, or red and green. So it's matching up two straight up complements. And then you've got your triad, which is what I was talking about with the orange, green, purple. So what we've done here is we've actually veered off course. We're almost doing, this would be a gamut. What James Gurney might call this a gamut, a particular gamut type of color scheme. Because we're only using this half of the color wheel. We're not using any other half of the color wheel. If I want to preserve that, then I will not go orange at all with my gold. So, yes, thank you, Evangelista. Sorry, I missed that because I was extemporaneousing. I was explainifying, and so I missed that question. It's just 1-to-1 War Shadow, 2-to-2. Oh, of course, Kroniko. The Icy Violet was just like telling you like you needed 2 bottles. Colors that go together horribly would be like matching green and blue-green. These go together the worst. And the other one that's terrible is here, let me get it to where it's over here. You can actually see it. Like a burnt orange and pink. Like these. Oh god. Terrible. So those are the eyes bleeding colors. And the reason, notice what they have in common. They are right next to each other on the color wheel. This is why I tell you guys, don't pick colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel. Or if you do, you've got to make one really light and the other really dark. And sometimes even that won't save you because this pink and that dark, that brown look horrible together. Awful. Like you might be able to do it if you took this a little colder. But in general, anything that's going to be terrible is going to be right next to each other on the color wheel. So do beware. And that's the thing with analogous color schemes. You will sometimes see an artist do, and analogous just means they're all right next to each other. So you will sometimes see an artist do this. Red, violet, red, red, orange. Without doing the complement. And they'll work it by making like they'll choose one really dark. They'll figure out which of these go together, right? Maybe they use a really dark violet with a medium red and a light red orange, maybe. Something like that. It's why red-haired people look bad in red. Because it's right next to it thing. Like, I have to paint a model right now for commission that is just that. Is a red-haired person, which is actually orange, because orangey carrot top hair, right? Wearing red. And so to make that work, and originally he was kind of in orangey leather as well. So it was terrible. So in order to make that work, I'm having to take one of those very dark, or you can use shadows. Like, you can also switch it with shadows. But anyway. Yes, War Shadow, you need, no, it's more than 1 drop of water. No, always, 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 the more white you add, the more water you need to add. If you are layering, if you want it to smoothly blend. If you are wet blending, it doesn't matter. Then thin it as much as you need to wet blend with it. Because I've wet blended both with thick and thin paint. So yeah. Alrighty, so anyway, that's our color theory of the day. So we are going off the beaten path. We are essentially using colors that are all on one side, one half of the color wheel. I'm sure there's a name for that particular gamut of color. I do really like this beautiful violet we've got going on here, though, guys. I think that's a beautiful color. 1 drop Kraken ink, 4 drops Icy Violet. Totally paint a mini that color. It's beautiful. But I love indigos. I love indigo colors, so... I may even use, I would normally line this a little bit around these wraps to bring them all out. And I probably would use Kraken ink or maybe 4 drops Kraken ink with 1 drop Icy Violet to line these. This Da Vinci Maestro is finally breaking down after I've brutalized it so much. It's finally destroying itself, I think, after a year or more than a year. Like, it still can make a fine tip, but it definitely doesn't have the same tip that it had ages ago. It may even be 2 years old. This poor thing. Been making it contort itself for this long. So now let's figure out where our accents are. I am going to put one on the sword hilt, as that is always a good place, because there's usually a leather wrap, and the leather wrap is often dyed. So it's a good place for a color. Is it called monochroma? But monochroma implies one color basement, like sepia. I know it's a gamut. It's a particular gamut, but everything is a particular gamut on the color wheel. Essentially, you just take a slice out of that particular part of the wheel and you don't use anything outside of it. There. So there's that violet. There's that violet. Let's see. Flowers in her hair. Now that we've chosen an accent color, we need to repeat it. Got a little dark on my lining, run the flower on that side, so now is the time to kind of fill that in a little bit with color. I always tell you guys, like, if you have problems with color theory, the only thing you need to remember is to use colors that are farther apart on the color wheel. That colors, the farther apart they are on the color wheel, the more they will like each other. That's it. Ta-da. If you remember that, and then remember that you should always alternate dark, medium, and light on a model, you'll be fine. You'll never have a bad paint job. You won't have very, exciting paint jobs, but you'll never have a bad one. The coolness of color comes from learning to muck about with it, but you can be perfectly okay with it and confident with it just by sticking to those simple rules. Use colors that are farther apart on the color wheel and always go, make one kind of medium, one kind of light, one kind of dark. So here I went kind of dark with my green and I went light with my yellow. And what am I doing? I'm going medium with my purple. Ta-da! And then, of course, we have neutrals, where we went even lighter with the white and darker with the wood and leather. So, it's analogous, yeah. You looked it up? Yeah, I was going to say monochroma is literally one color. That's why monochrome paint schemes are like sepia paint schemes or noir paint schemes. Those are one color. Or in the case of noir, really, it's no color. Or it's true noir would be black and white with red, so it would be monochrome technically if you just count black and white as shades and not as colors. If you want a purple that has no white added, you don't want to use Nightshade. It's mostly black. You want to pick up Monarch probably if you want a dark, rich purple. Either Monarch or Kraken once Kraken is available. But these two colors are exceptionally useful because Evangelista, because they don't have white. And this one, Monarch, is even more useful because it also doesn't have black. Its dark color comes entirely from the blue pigments in it. So this is a bluish purple. This is a reddish purple. As you can see, they are very similar in shade. So they're both darks. But these, I think, are the two. These, if you're looking for like a darker purple with no white, these are your two really high utility colors. They let you do the most. And it's very common to add white to purple for the reason that otherwise purple is very transparent. But yeah, Nightshade is dark because it has a ton of black in it. We wanted a really dark purple, and it's very good as a liner and as it can be very good as a shader, but it's hold on, I'm gonna zoom in again. Zoomies. And oh, that's right, her little sleevelets. I wanted her sleevelets to also be this color. I reserved little parts of the model to add this accent to. You can see that she's already looking more interesting though, guys, can't you? Like this adds enough breadth. It's close enough to a compliment. Yeah, exactly. Get Monarch. Monarch and I don't know if Kraken is available right now, but definitely get Monarch. Love, love, love Monarch. So good. And Monarch creates a beautiful shadow for Runic Purple when you mix the two together. Just like Kraken Ink creates a beautiful shadow for Icy Violet, as you can see. Yeah, kinda. Yeah, we all have our official color schemes. David's is teal and red, or teal and orange. Mine is purple and gold. Because I do love purple and gold. I cannot lie. That's why my Templar is so weird. That I'm going red, yellow, blue with it. But that was kind of made... that decision was kind of made for me a little bit. Because I want to do Sky Earth. And so you know you're going to have a strong blue... kind of accent when you go Sky Earth. If you're going with a traditional sky. You could totally do Sky Earth on an alien world. You just have to do it extremely convincingly. Everything would have to be like right in line. No mistakes. Alright, so we've got two little pouchy things with straps. We can also make this an accent color. Anytime you've got random little pouchy things or scroll tubes or whatever you want to call them, you can absolutely put a touch of color on them. I think I might want to make the caps... can't decide if I want to make the caps gold. I think I'll make the end caps just this color here. For these lower ones, and the top one I can make gold. Maybe I'll make the little corks on the side there kind of quirky colored, which could be a gold plus white. But we are now just filling in stuff, and we've got two straps here, which technically now we kind of run up against it. I think though, think I'm going to do... I also need a little bit more of my walnut because I missed a part down here. 1 second. Yeah, you like the red and gold with a dark gray or black. Yep. That's a very snazzy... I knew a guy back when I was in Madison, Wisconsin, who had... it was his Empire army, and he did it all in red, black, and gold, and oh my god, that was such a showy army. Like, the color scheme just hit you in the face. It looked so good together. I was always like, it's never my favorite color scheme, but it looks so good on his army, it made me want to paint something like that. And I like painting red, so... But I've never gone strongly in that direction. Though Templar she'll have like gold and red, so she's just not her primary. Yeah, blue and silver, yeah. Yeah, red and gold with black. Hey, Fido. Hey, Fido, if you're interested in color theory, you should go back and watch the VOD of today. I do some very simple... this model was an excellent example for something of color theory to directly show people, so if you're interested, go back and catch the first part of it. It's the Ann TED Talk on color theory. Yes, I like that. Whoever said that. That's like sounds cool. I'm gonna adopt that. I'm gonna get this little end cap cork in a darker color. Gonna get these straps in a darker color. I think you still need to pop those highlights up like I did on the orc. Like, you can go for a darker red, but you've still got to highlight it. You want to pop it up there to a bright, vibrant red. That's where it starts looking really cool, I think. A lot of people make the mistake of not highlighting their reds enough. I'm just going to line around this a little bit. Don't know what that is, but I'm going to paint it in a moment. All right. So here I have to decide, and there's an option here. We could have gone with this entire scabbard with the violet color, but I think it would have been a little too much. We could have, though. But the thing that we really should consider now is actually changing the color of this scabbard to the green. Because when I look at the back of this model now, when everything is almost all filled in, I realize that I don't have any of my green, which is a key component of the color scheme. And it's definitely showing the lack of it. And what that will do also is allow me to paint these straps dark, because I will then have a contrasting color next to it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab my wilderness green, and we're going to repaint. We're going to repaint the scabbard wilderness. I'm also just doing a little bit of lining here that I missed earlier, since I got my walnut out. So again, we've got none of this nice, rich wilderness green, which really, as you see, really is a good component in the color scheme. It's a necessary component. So we're just going to take the scabbard, which I wasn't happy with painting dark, but I didn't quite know. Sometimes you don't know until you get further into the model what you want to do. And when you realize it, just go for it. Like, it's not a mistake. It's just, you're waiting for the model to tell you what color that needs to be. Oh, yeah. I think he technically used, like, a medium red, but if your medium red is, like, heraldic, you can get away with it. Heraldic does have a little bit of a darker tone. It's just like it's like a 6, I think. I'd have to hold it up to my color wheel to figure out exactly what it is. Make sure to shake your wilderness green really well. And it's time to do a stretch as well, so I'm going to get up and do that stretch in just a second after I mix up this green, add some water. There. We'll come back and apply that to the model. We may want to put down some white first, but I don't think so, because We've got a medium color and light colors next to it. Since we have this light color here, we really don't want to paint this white first. The dark is a lot more contrasty, so putting the green over the dark will give us higher contrast than painting the sword in white and putting the green over it. See, that's weird, Shadow Raven, because those colors have such high potential for fighting. And the reason is that they tend to be roughly the same value, many iterations of them. But if you can make it work, there are definitely ways to make it work. They can look good together. Obviously, we've got blue sky and green trees, and we think they look beautiful, so. No, you just like a color scheme that's, like, really cool and earthy. And one presumes you make it work. One presumes you don't stare at it and think it's ugly, so. Alright, stretch, everybody. Stretch, stretch, stretch. But you are an oddity, because a lot of people who have a color scheme they love will kind of pick, like, triadic. They'll pick, like, you know, green and purple, or teal and purple, or red and teal, and orange and teal, purple and gold, blue and gold, you know? Stretch. It just means you're an oddity, and we already knew that. Personally, I like dark blue with a lighter green. I think that can be a nice color scheme. I don't like the reverse as much. Even if it is sky color, to go light blue and dark green. With, like, sky color and plant color. But my gut doesn't like it as much. Alright, I'm going to go into a floor stretch, and then I will be back. Alrighty. I dropped a mini on the floor, so I'm going to rescue it real quick. It's a model I've primed and I've gotten already, but I haven't put any paint on. No, it's not the wolf. Don't worry. But I had the box lying slightly open, so of course it wanted to jump off the shelf. There. Sweet. Now it is slightly closed, which is much better if it jumps off the shelf again. Yeah, the red, blue, gray, olive really rocks, doesn't it? I loved that. There were several models. There was a point when I was painting for eBay where like 3 or 4 of them had that color scheme because I liked it so much. That Templar is lucky. She's very close. She could have gone red, blue, gray, olive. All right, let's see. We'll just screen. This will help the model a lot. Putting this color back here. May need to do a couple of coats. I thinned it. It covers much better if you don't thin it as much as I did. Wilderness. This is also a paint that is a little prone to separation, so be sure to shake your wilderness well. There. Wanted to do some freehand today too, but I don't think we're going to get to it. Because I went on about color theory. There were 2 possible topics for today's stream: color theory or freehand, and color theory won. I don't want to get in the middle of freehand right now. So we shall get this all laid in, and then we'll be able to clearly see our entire color scheme. I'm not going to worry about lining here. I'm just going to fill in my green. I can always line over it. Then I need to wait for that to dry and put another coat on, but that's going to look a lot better. That's going to take our dark green on the interior and the bodice, and it's going to carry it around. We lose it back here because the hair blocks the bodice. So I also am looking at these cuffs, and I'm thinking that I want to make them dark green as well. Like, I don't like them as much leather, which is what I originally thought I might make them. I like them better as a dark green. So I'm going to block those in as well. Like I said, sometimes you get to a point in the model where you just realize that the color scheme that you originally thought of, or the color that you painted a part of the mini, is not actually the best color for it. Just paint over it. Just because you put a base coat down doesn't mean you are committed. Yeah, she's looking really nice now. I like this color scheme. I wouldn't go accent color for these cuffs because they're too big, by the way. So notice that with the exception of this, and we haven't done our crystal yet. Our crystal's also going to be the violet. But we keep it... Yeah, so that's surface control, is what that is, Evangelista. So the fact that the plum ended up reading as pink is probably because your highlights took up too much space. And the opposite thing happened with the white, where your shadows probably took up too much space. White is a lot like yellow in that your shadows will draw the eye and change the color. So you've got to have a majority of the surface area be white, just pure white, in order to avoid that. Wilderness, Thormel. I've already decided Twisted Oma. I seldom let you guys vote, you'll notice, mostly because it's like I'm inspired to do like a particular thing. So I'm not going to make it a regular thing that you get to vote on the color scheme, because usually I do have a strong concept. And honestly, if I try to paint it to something where I don't have a strong concept, I won't like it and I won't finish it. So there is still this is still an and stream. I still make most of the call most of the shots. But every once in a while, like on this one, I wanted to see which color you guys thought would be good on her, and I would have been happy with either. But I will say that I'm happy that you chose Icy Violet instead of the more standard. Though I would have less to talk about. Like, I really feel like this is a really neat color scheme, and it's not the usual one because you guys picked the Icy Violet. Most people would have picked the complementary because that's what our eyes like. But I like twisting it a little bit, and I think this is a pretty beautiful color scheme, actually. I really like it. Some people won't because it's not the predictable purple. We went violet instead. And they can feel free to dislike it. That's all right. There. I've got that all in. So now the only thing we're kind of missing is that belt at her throat and some of the silver parts that I'm going to take silver. Yeah, that is one way to do it, Bryce. I like to kind of take my time. Like, I definitely like to kind of fill in pieces at a time. I'm pretty confident that I won't paint myself into a color corner, though. So Erin's technique is absolutely very useful. I am pretty confident at any point, though, that I can, if I start going south, I'll spot it. But I like the exploration factor. Like with this model, I definitely liked exploring as I went and seeing how everything changed as I added colors. But yeah, so go with the way that you like it. The other thing is, since I paint in sections, I think I've just gotten used to painting in sections. Thank you, Bryce. You make me feel good about myself. But, I mean, I really do enjoy painting in sections for that reason. I guess I like kind of the challenge and the fun of discovery. It's kind of why, and yet I don't start a model until I have at least a basic color inspiration. So weirdly, I guess I write like I paint like I write, which is I'm somewhere in between somebody. I don't just write without an outline, but I don't outline everything when I write. So it's kind of the same way with my painting, is I have a concept, but I'm willing to change it. And I just essentially know how the road starts, and then I like to kind of discover how the road ends. It's a violet. It's Evangelista. This is Icy Violet plus 1 drop of Kraken ink. So I did take it darker than the original color that was voted for because I wanted to start with the shadow and work it up. Because I wanted this to read more like a middle ground color. If I wanted it to read really light, then I would have started really light like we did with the hair. I would say that this is an unusual color scheme. Like I said, there's a more predictable way to go with it, but I'm glad we didn't, because sometimes it's fun to maybe try stuff. And I know that this Icy Violet is going to go well with this yellow green because it's essentially it's almost Dungeon Slime. Like this shadow here is almost Dungeon Slime, and Icy Violet and Dungeon Slime are best friends. So I knew it would work, but it's definitely not the usual, right? And it's certainly not the usual for me because I tend to go complementary high contrast. But instead we worked more with just lights and darks on this and then the punch of the accent color. So yeah, well, you know, Bryce, it's I really feel like you're taking risks. You are taking risks when you do it, right? Like I'm still stuck on this. I'm going to paint it in violet and see if I like it, guys, this stomach part. If it's not violet, though, it is probably going to go yellow. So let's see here. Will I like it as violet? I don't think I will, though. Part of me says, or maybe it's, Yeah, I don't think I'm going to like it as violet, though, as I stop. I stop and assess, because I really feel like we need this strong yellow-green center. And I just need to suck it up and maybe take the laces dark green and keep the light green in there. That's the problem, is the laces take up everything. So it's like, do I paint it dark green and go lighter green with the laces? Maybe that's what I really need to do. So, yeah, I don't think purple. Like, I started and then, like, I kind of imagined it and went, no, it's not ideal. I have enough purple on this model at this time. I have enough violet, I think. Except maybe around her neck. Maybe we'll make the leather up there violet. That would be kind of funny. It won't be as good with the gold necessarily because they're similar tones, but we'll see. I can always paint it in brown if I want. No, I don't think so, Twistoma. My gut told me very strongly and in no uncertain terms that I was not to put purple in that area. You got to go with your gut. When your gut knows color. And even when your gut doesn't sometimes, then see if your gut was just crazy. When you are developing your skills. I think I am going to go... I'm going to go green with it, guys, but we're going to come back and we're going to bring that yellow in on the laces. That's what I'm going to do. Because I want that yellow there, but having it in the background is really not going to let it read very well. Because the background, after you paint in the laces on this, the background is really not there. Like, most of it is laces. So I'm going to green this in, and then I'm going to bring in the laces yellow. Which is probably more like what would actually be a good fashion choice anyway. I was going to do the background yellow, but yeah, unlike with a real corset, the laces are sculpted to be very thick here. So we'll do it with that. Bye, Shadow Raven. Hope you have an enjoyable lunch. Alrighty. So this is where we're at now, and I think I am going to make that little buckle at her throat gold. Even though it does go up against the skin color. And we'll see if I can make it different enough to make it not clash with the skin. I think I can because of the yellow component of NMM. I think it'll be okay. But right now it's a very, this embossment of sorts border is very close to the skin color. So I'll have to do some NMM. And it might even turn out looking more like bronze because I don't want to take any red or orange into it. That's going to mean that the gold is going to be really cold. It's going to read more probably like brass or bronze. But I'm good with that. We've almost got all our colors blocked in. Then it's just like playing around with stuff, highlighting, shading. I missed a spot on this boot. I'm gonna touch it up and then we'll highlight some purple. And maybe we'll do some freehand next time. Gotta be in the mood to do freehand. Yeah, I'm liking this. This is cool. But yeah, when I tell you guys to like work with the color wheel and to figure out like, you know, how light or how dark a color is, to alternate lights and darks and to go with colors, start with colors that are far apart on the wheel, or, you know, the farther apart they are, the better they'll work together, the happier they'll be together. Like what I'm trying to do is to give you a foundation for the gut feeling on color. So if you follow just those rules until they're ingrained in you, that gives your gut somewhere to go if you're building an innate understanding of like whether this is going to work or not work, so that you can make the call before you even lay down the color. And visualizing it in your head also helps. Kind of imagine how the model would look with that color there. But first you got to learn to trust your gut. And to do that, you need to have some sort of foundation of experience to build that trust in your gut. And it absolutely can be built. It's not like, you know, you don't have to have a natural aptitude for color to build that understanding where you can trust yourself, where you can make a call and trust yourself. You just need to work with it for a while. I mean, imagine like, you know, think about like aerospace engineers and people like that, where sometimes they'll make a decision, you know, based on just their understanding, their tremendous understanding of the subject matter, right? They have a gut understanding of what will work and what won't in, like, say, the structure of a plane. And they understand the ratios and the lift and all that sort of thing, all the math that goes into it. And they've developed that. They weren't born with that. Same with color theory. It's not rocket science to continue the aerospace technology analogy. It really isn't, but you do need to work with it, just like with anything. You need to work with it and think about it in order to develop that gut instinct for it. I think that even Lovejoy would admit that, you know, he can make pretty good calls, like if he had to, if he didn't block in everything, he could make pretty good calls on color, just based on what he knows and understands about it, because he's worked with the medium for so long. But I do think that sometimes you do have to, like, convince yourself to trust yourself on this one. Like, take your chances. And what's the worst thing that happens? Like, okay, you waste a little time in painting it over. I've decided to go with that. And maybe it's just because I've chosen to take that chance so many times, and more or less it's worked out for me. So I have a great degree of confidence in myself on color at that point. So I guess, you know, if you're always cautious and you prefer to block it all in, that's great. And maybe it'll take you a little longer to like get like that gut level understanding and confidence in yourself to just make that call and just go for it, even though it may go south. Well, yeah, they math out everything because they have to. But at the same time, you can't tell me they don't understand like that X or Y probably is or probably isn't going to work. Like I know a couple of them, you know, and they're like they'll be able to look at a design and say, you know, that's probably not going to work, you know, just based on their gut level understanding of the math and science and how everything works together. And yeah, they'll still have to prove it. And maybe they might be off. But they're probably not far off, depending on the experience of the engineer. So I guess it really is like, do you want to take risks in your painting? Or do you want to play it safe? And neither one is a bad answer. It's all just, you know, I like to wing it. I like to live dangerously. And to adjust. I find maybe it's the challenge of it that I like. I'm going to just block in the sword because it's annoying, even though it is gray and it's going to be gray. But I'll put it. You should always put a little bit of another color in there, remember. So I am going to actually add a tiny bit of this violet into my gray. Just a tiny bit. You don't want it to read purple. You don't want a purple sword. My feelings about purple swords have not changed. Yeah. A sense of like balance and proportion, I bet Chibi does actually help. So I can believe it. All right, let's paint this. Yeah, the equivalent of mathing out everything in miniature painting is just finishing your models and seeing how your inner equations worked. So this is a slightly more violet color than the underlying Bones Black, or Bones USA, sorry. The underlying Bones USA gray. Just a slightly more violet color, which will help it work well with the rest of the model. Well, this is mostly gray. It just has a little bit of the staff wrapping color in it. You have to keep it different enough. But when you do NMM steel or silver, you should always have some other color in it. And it makes sense to use a color that you are already using elsewhere on the model. Or if you aren't going to do that, then go blue. Because we're used to seeing blue sky reflected in steel. And so it makes sense to our gut feeling. Ah, that's a bag. That's what that is. And that's that's the top of the bag. Now I have to paint that differently. I just realized that was a pouch. That's all right. We still haven't done the straps back there, so I can go back and fix it. And I forgot to do green back here. So now we're blocking in. So yeah, there does come a point where I do have to block in the model, or I want to block in the model. Like today I felt a very strong urge to finish out blocking it in and figuring out what color everything was. So when I hit that point, I follow my gut and I do it. But up to that point, sometimes I like to play. Because sometimes you discover a color scheme that you really like and maybe wouldn't have reached for off the bat, I think. There. And I still have to put another layer of green on that. And I do need to do the silver on the front. So yeah. And these little runes on the scabbard back will probably be gold, but I might take them silver. I usually don't take them silver, but I might want something a little different. I don't mind flashes of gold or bronze here and there, but I don't want to go too much because it's not a main component of the color scheme. So much as I'm not a big fan of silver, I might go silver with these guys. Or I could just paint the runes as if this is like say a wooden scabbard that's been carved, and just paint them as a slightly highlighted green. That would actually make sense since she's a wood elf. Like, make it a carved lacquered wood scabbard. That would be pretty. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I like that idea. Alright, so back, except for those straps is blocked in. Let's block in these buckles. Yeah, bye, Dogfather. See you later. Yeah, gold is what most of us would do, I think. But it may not work well with the balance of the figure, so. Because I don't want to go too gold. So I'm going to do all the gold on this side and then make a judgment call. The other thing is that I've got a lot more green on this side than I do on that side. If I do a lot of gold on this scabbard, it's going to knock out a lot of the dark green that is on this side of the figure. I may not want that. Now, there are ways to reintroduce that. I could do freehand back here in the wilderness green on the skirt, which I was considering doing. And that could help, but I still might need more. Let's see here. Man, just hard to spot some of the details here. But we know that's a buckle, so we're going to do the buckle. And these guys are buckles. Buckles. Now, silver works here for these small buckles because of the dark green, the darker green. Because wilderness is not a light green or yellow, the silver will show up really well. And so it's a good choice here for these little buckles. It also is a neutral, so it's not going to really draw the eye too much. It's just a nice flash of detail. Yeah, see I had a blurf, a little tiny micro blurf there because my brush is failing. It's on its last leg, its last hairs. I should switch to tiny brush, or I should whip out a new Da Vinci. But usually I break in a new brush on something I'm really enjoying painting, like competition piece spinny. It makes it's like getting a new toy, is opening a new brush. For me, because I'm weird. Alright, so now that I've got tiny brush, I can hit these little tongues in the buckles. Even if I have to reload my brush more often. And the top edge of the buckle is not quite as well defined. So we might have to do a little freehanding on there. Sometimes when stuff is sculpted really finely, it won't translate very well when you try to paint it. And so you have to kind of put some extra punch or extra emphasis on it by almost doing it, freehanding it to make it stand out more than the sculpt actually dictates. All right, so little buckles that I'll have to do a little bit of freehand on. Just because the top of the buckle is very hard to see. And so I'll probably line around what I've done here to create more contrast than there actually is. Here's where I'm also going to fill in these guys. She has a little animal face on her pouch. So we can do that in silver. We could do it in gold, but again, I'm going a bit more toward the silver end now. I don't want too much gold on the model because I don't want that gold to become a primary color on the model. I want it just to be accents here and there. And it will probably go more bronze, as I mentioned. because I don't want to add in any red tones to it. Red or orange. Want to avoid those. Alright. But I don't want to do... I think I still want to do gold up here, like it's ornamental. We'll keep that. I may change that, but for now, that's where we are. Alright, let's see here. Just kind of looking at stuff, figuring out where my other snaps are. There we are. So little accents coming out now that I'm base coating those little places. Kind of looking at this again, trying to figure out. I think it's a buckle. Probably a couple buckles here. Gonna map it in. It's either a top of a pouch or a buckle. Either way, we can do it silver. Silver will not be too intrusionary. Ah, basement. Yeah, I'm using DaVinci today. And so that link is exact. I was using my Series 10 size 1, my very old and very beat up Series 10 size 1 DaVinci Maestro. You can see the 1 for the size, and the series is just the shape of the brush. 10 is a normal round in DaVinci. Normal round brush, which is what most main painting brushes are, but some people use other shapes. And this is also a Series 10 that I'm using now, but it's a triple aught, so it's my tiny brush. Tiny brush. Comparable shape. You can see how beat up the 1 is. It's not really holding a great tip anymore. And then the tiny brush. So that's the difference in size. The 1 started out to be a bit bigger than it is, but it's worn down and lost hairs over the... I think it's almost 2 years old. I often use Raphael as well, but on this model, I've just been swapping back to little brushes lately. Where's my mixing brush? Yeah, there it is. And we're pretty much set. I'm just going to line around those little buckles, but I think we've done pretty good work today. We figured out a lot on this model. Oop, I have BBs outside. Well, beepies mean it's... I'm not going to close the window at this late stage in the game. We'll just deal with the beepies. So, right. So, got my walnut. Walnut is nice because you can... Oh, and sirens. Yeah, it's definitely time to end the stream. There. Walnut's nice because it covers so well that you can thin it and still have a pretty solid line. If you have trouble controlling the amount of paint on your brush when you thin your paint, try switching to a very small brush like this. Not a super, super tiny brush, but just, you know. With Reaper, it would be like an aught 10, a 0/10. With DaVinci, it's like, DaVinci, it's 30, or a 000, 000. With, I would say you could get this same size in Winsor Newton Series 7 with a 00. There we go. But yeah, if you have trouble, like if you're starting to thin your paint and you notice it's hard to control, switch to a very small brush because it's going to be easier for you to unload, and it's not going to take on so much fluid at the start. So it will essentially allow you to master your paint consistency a little more and understand what consistency you need. And then when you switch back up to a bigger brush, you'll carry with you that understanding of, oh, it should look like this, so I need to take more paint off the brush. Because the bigger the brush, the more you have to unload it when you're using thinner paint to get good effects, get control. Cool, Kariniko. Yeah, I'm glad. Yay for cheering people up. That's what it's about. Yay. There we go. So I went in and kind of freehanded around that little tongue on the buckle just to get a little more crisp. So small brushes can be very useful for that. Tiny brushes. So what we did today, we talked a lot about color theory. We had the chat decide what color I was going to use as an accent color, which was fun. We filled in our accent color. We talked about how colors change depending on what you put next to them. We talked about why and the wherefores and all of, why I might want to not go with as much gold. We talked about color schemes. And then we filled in or blocked in all the rest of the colors on the model. So now I just have to fill in a couple of dark straps back here and just figure out what I'm doing here with some of this stuff. But otherwise, our paint scheme is filled in. We know what we're doing. And that's what we did today. We got quite a bit of progress done. Lysette is, now I know exactly what direction she's going now because we finally filled her all in. So cool. Who are we going to raid today, Quindy? Or Reaper, or whoever. Brush for hire, awesome. All right, guys, tomorrow is Genie. Maybe the last day of Genie. We'll have to see. How much we can get done on her smoke, her colored smoke, and her lamp tomorrow. All right, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And yeah, I'll see you on the morrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.